Welcome to the Down a Difference, the podcast where we explore the stories and the people behind Downa's success. Through our discussions, we'll uncover how our high-performance culture drives outcomes, how we deliver for our customers, and support each other to enable communities to thrive. My name is Mary Donohoe, and I'm here in the studio with my co-host, Elaine Turi.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the Down a Difference podcast. Today, Elaine and I are joined in the studio by Deniz Molokov, our Chief Information Security Officer. How are you doing, Deniz?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Have you been enjoying the CEO offsite?
Yeah, look, it's been really great catching up with people, and obviously, all the events of yesterday was fantastic.
Oh, good. Well, Elaine and I have some quickfire questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready as I'll ever be.
Well, we're here today to talk about cybersecurity.
Yep.
So to kick us off, cyber moves very quickly. How have you found your leadership style adapting over time?
Yeah, look, cybersecurity is a really evolving landscape. Things change pretty much daily. There's never a day that's the same in cybersecurity. And through my leadership over the years, I've really had to adapt and change that in terms of the way that I actually empower my people. I can't be everywhere at one time. Nobody can, actually. And empowering my people to actually act with autonomy, giving them the ability to make decisions and actually empowering them to actually drive our business throughout the day and the night, because cybersecurity is not a 9 to 5 job. It's something that goes 24/7. Typically in cyber, it's a Friday afternoon or a Sunday morning where something happens. So really making sure that I'm nurturing my people and giving them the skills, tools and abilities to actually lead, cybersecurity incidents and others.
What's one leadership skill you're working on at the moment?
My one leadership skill that I'm working on is deep thinking. And the reason why I work on deep thinking is it's a very diverse, broad organisation within Downa. And making sure that I'm actually taking the time to actually listen to people and really understand the context in terms of a business relationship and really putting that to work and actually understanding what are the underlying themes that's happening within our business that enables me to act with more, decisiveness, but also act in the best interest of the business.
Deep thinking. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about the concept of that? Because not everyone might be aware of what it is, or at least your interpretation of it.
Yeah, look, my interpretation is I've got a pretty big team of cyber analysts, as an example. And their daily job is really going through data analytics, understanding trends analysis, looking at user behaviour, any anomalous events that might be happening in the environment. And they obviously provide a lot of themes and context back through to me. It's really easy at a high level just to go, we'll make a decision and we'll take this path forward based on whatever it might be. My interpretation of deep thinking is really taking that step back and actually taking a lens off people, process and technology and how that analysis they're feeding through to the environment that we're operating within, and really understanding that context in a lot more level of detail and taking time.
Yeah, and is it you alone, or are you using AI to do that? Or
I don't.
If you can share a bit of your secrets,
Yeah, look, absolutely. I don't have a lot of secrets. I know a lot of secrets of everybody else in the business. So it's a bit more like the other way around. Do I use AI? I do from time to time.
Okay.
In the right context. I guess it's really interesting being a CISO and actually talking about AI a lot. Many people have this stigma where cybersecurity and AI don't really go complementary and hand in hand. But, you would have seen from the meetings that we had yesterday, AI is here, it's there, it's everywhere, and everyone's using it. And you need to take a risk-based view in terms of, do you use AI or do you not use AI? And in my world, we need to embrace it, but we need to embrace it with the relevant controls and guardrails in place. So I do use it. I wouldn't say I'm an early adopter. I'm more of a wait and see and then let's take a bit of a step back and then actually move forward. But I do use it, Helen. Not every day, though.
Dennis, how do you decide when to take a bold step forward in security innovation versus holding back to manage risk?
Yeah, great question. So in security, innovation is something that we need to embrace. And it's really understanding what the business context is, how we actually empower our people, how we ensure that they go to work safe, they remain safe, and they have the necessary tools to do their job. Technology is here to make it easier for people. It shouldn't be here to make it more difficult for people. And cybersecurity is here for really 3 things: making sure that we protect the data, making sure that we protect our systems, and making sure that we protect our people. So when we understand the business strategy and apply the context, I make a decision as to what is the way we're going to move forward with this in a more systemic manner. And one of the analogies that I use with the business when I actually meet with them is cybersecurity is like seatbelts in a car. So we enable you to drive down the highway. You can go within the speed limit, of course, but you wear your seatbelt. So in the event that you need to make an emergency stop, you have the ability to do that safely because the seatbelts are protecting you. So what we're saying is don't stop, continue going, but let's do it in a safe manner.
I love the analogy of the seatbelt. I'm going to be using that. I'm going to copy you. You just talked about data, and actually I took some notes about that. So, because our customers, they trust us to keep that data and their infrastructure secure, right? Because what we do is also asset management. So, how do you keep that promise real and also visible?
Data is really important, and obviously our customers have very high expectation in terms of how we actually protect not only our data, but more importantly, their data. And how do we do that? We do it through a number of different mechanisms. So number one, we actually hold certifications. So we have what's called an ISO 27001, which is the International Security Management System. And that puts the controls from in terms of standards, policies and procedures in place in terms of how we actually collect data, how we store it, and how we actually transmit it. We also have obviously regulatory and compliance obligations, and that's passed down to us through our engagements with our customers and so forth. So they have very strict requirements in terms of how we actually process and handle their data. We ensure that we do internal audits, we do external audits, so we're not marking our own homework, and that's how we can actually attest to our customers that we actually have the necessary guardrails, controls and procedures in place to safeguard their information.
Yeah, and actually it's quite interesting because obviously for any infrastructure player, health and safety is very important. So to me, it's almost like if data is another part of the safety or having a wider ecosystem around the safety. So in continuing on the conversation of trust and transparency, so how do you balance like technical excellence with transparency? And ensuring that actually security is not becoming a black box, and also that you can not educate but communicate with our leaders, so they actually understand the importance of it and what they need to do when we are bidding a new contract, for instance, or when we manage an asset. What do we need to take into consideration?
Yeah, look, keeping the executive informed of cybersecurity and what we actually do and why we actually do it, and that it's not a black box, is a bit of an art. Cybersecurity is one of those things where everyone believes it's a scary, dark place and we don't know what's happening and it's all this unknown and there's all these people out there trying to attack us. And look, in reality, that actually is true from a downer sense. But really demystifying cybersecurity by putting it in terms that the business understand and that our executives understand. So the what, the why, and the how. And it's really really important, rather, to actually help them contextualize where their investment is actually going. So as an example, I was in a meeting recently and we needed some funding for a cybersecurity project, and it was related to a business. And it was in relation to external asset hardening, which basically means on the internet, everyone can see us, and then how are we actually going to ensure that our perimeter is secured. Now, me coming into a meeting and just talking technical terms and acronyms, of which IT and cybersecurity have no limit of acronyms and technical
yes,
terms.
Absolutely. I worked in telco, seriously, it's another world.
Absolutely right. So it's around how do we actually get people to visualize it? Some people are, learning through, reading information. People are visual learners. And the story that I use with them is imagine we're in an ocean and you're in a plane and there's a flashing beacon. The plane is our attack surface. What we see on the ocean with the flashing beacon is downer. People can see everything in the world. So how do we actually protect that? How do we make sure those beacons are protected? And when we start having, to kind of contextualize that in their terms, they start to form a view of that, okay, my investment's actually going to an appropriate area. With our business, it's really important. What we've actually launched over the past 18 months is cybersecurity awareness training. We had some previously.
I've done it.
Yes.
Have you done it, Mary?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, no, actually it was good. I've learned HIPS and I thought it wasn't that hard and the language was actually really good.
Yeah. So what we've actually tried to do is we've actually got an Australian business which is actually helping us with those training modules. We do custom modules where we have different scenarios in our businesses, like social infrastructure, actually have their own custom module for hospitals as an example. But we roll that out to employees because what we wanted to do is make it easy but also relatable for them to learn. I mean, we actually take all that data and we understand what people are doing, how they're learning. We run simulated phishing campaigns and we actually take that and feed that back up to the exec, and they actually can see what their businesses are actually doing and how they're interacting with IT. Because IT for me, like Zero Harm in Downer to operate plant and equipment, IT is actually, plant and equipment in a technology sense. So you do your training, you understand how to safely use technology, and when you safely, use a technology, that's effectively your license to operate that, that technology. And that's why putting that cyber lens across that really helps us to ensure that our people are equipped with the knowledge before they go out and click on phishing links or whatever else it might be.
Cyber security talent is in high demand across the globe. How do we attract and recruit the next generation of cybersecurity leaders at Downer?
Yeah, and that's a really good question, and it's definitely something that I think about very often. And there's a multi-pronged approach in terms of how I actually deal with that. So number one, I sit on an alliance as an example, and I understand what's out there in the market, and it works very closely with universities and so forth. So I work very closely with universities in terms of what emerging trends are, where the talent's coming from, international students, domestic students, and so forth. There are also a number of really good support networks out there. Another organisation that I work with and I do actually mentorship with is the Australian Women in Security Network.
Okay.
So that's actually empowering women to come into cybersecurity. IT is traditionally a very male-dominated field. And this network really enables people to actually meet, so yes, in terms of mentors and mentees, to actually help grow people into cybersecurity transitioning. So there might be people transitioning from nursing, as an example, other industries, and really trying to understand what transferable skills these people have to actually come into cybersecurity. In my own people, there's no limit to how many different cybersecurity certifications there are. There's no limit to any training that they might be able to do. And it's really now trying to stay ahead of the curve. So artificial intelligence, that's one thing, that how to actually train them, train those leaders, have that thinking around the business context, because ultimately we're here to serve the business, we're here to protect the business. So I try to obviously instill that in my leadership and into my team to ensure that we're building that next level of cyber capability.
So there could be another career for Elaine and I.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I've actually mentored, quite a few people who are, middle-aged. They've been working for 20 years, and they're actually wanting to transition to cybersecurity. And the thing is, cybersecurity, it's always relatable to the physical world. So it's not this digital world only. Cybersecurity is effectively like first responders. And this is actually an example that I gave a person that I was mentoring. She was a theatre nurse. And she said, I want to get into cybersecurity. What do I do? How can I get in? I don't know anything about IT. And I said, well, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? She goes, patients come in, I triage patients, I bring them into operating theatre, they have an operation. I said, well, that's exactly cybersecurity. Incidents come in, you need to triage it, you need to figure out how you're going to treat that incident, and then you put a framework around it in terms of obviously making sure that you're doing that appropriately. So, the two worlds, even though you think, being in a medical field and a cybersecurity field are worlds apart, in reality, when you think about what transferable skills an individual has, it's actually not that far apart.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Huh?
I just want to ask, which universities are you working with?
I have La Trobe University.
Oh, yes.
In Canberra, it's the Canberra University. And there's a few others in New South Wales, UNSW.
Right.
Do
you have any in New Zealand yet?
Not yet, but I'm sure we could make something happen.
Yeah, that would be awesome, actually.
Yeah. So these networks, they're all predominantly Australian-based, but it'd be great to do something in New Zealand,
I'll check it out.
You check it out.
Think about AI and cybersecurity. What do you think that's the trend that we all underestimate right now, and especially our leaders?
So with regards to artificial intelligence, I think, the limits of AI haven't really been translated probably appropriately into a business sense at the moment. There's a lot of benefit and a lot of innovation yet to be had. The rate of AI in terms of how it's changing and how it's growing across industries is actually phenomenal. It's actually growing faster than the internet did back in the 90s and into the late 90s. It's a really
it's exponential.
It's exponential, right? The AI is going to actually be the next big thing from the internet. And if you look back to the late 80s and the early 90s and how the internet was really growing, AI is taking over tenfold. So I think really we can't underestimate what AI is here to do. And then into the future, if we think about things like quantum computing as an example, that's really going to change the way we actually operate in the workplace.
Yeah, it's quite exciting to me. But also you're a CISO, right? Which is a beautiful acronym for your title. So do you have any blind spots?
Do I have blind spots? I've got many blind spots.
Who's allowed to challenge them?
Pardon?
Who's allowed to challenge them?
Who's allowed to challenge my blind spot? Look, the business as an example is probably one of my blind spots, really, to be honest. Even though we have a lot of logging and telemetry and monitoring, I'll give you some fun facts. Every month we take in 67 billion events of information.
What? How many?
67 billion.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. So that information, you might think you have no blind spots because you're getting so much data and so much telemetry and you're being able to distill that information into something actionable.
So sorry, just back to that number. Is this something that's an average for corporate of our size? Do you know? I mean, do you speak to your peers?
Yeah. From a corporate of our size, it's pretty standard. Give or take a threshold, obviously, because people have different environments.
How is that even possible? It's an incredible number.
It's an incredible number. It hits us every day. That kind of translates back down to about, we use AI to actually get that down because obviously a human can't go through 67 billion events. We get that down to about 1,500 or so. And then from that 1,500, we actually have humans actually looking at that. And then from there on average, we distill that down to about 75. I'm giving you rough numbers here of order of magnitude, that a human actually has to go and interact with someone in the business to take an action because whatever the event might have been. But in terms of the blind spot and going back to that, Down is a very large, complex organisation. Obviously, it operates over many different industries. There's regulatory compliance requirements and so forth. And shadow IT is my blind spot. So what shadow IT is the business might be going out and trying to innovate and trying to do something, and they think they're doing the best thing in their own business unit or their own line of business.
Right.
But actually, when they actually do that, they actually could be creating more harm than actually good because they're not necessarily doing it in a manner that's actually in alignment with contractual requirements, as an example. And typically the way that I find out about these things is when something goes bang in the middle of the night. So there are instances where we have...
I was going to say at the beginning, and sorry to interrupt you, but sometimes we talk because of the time difference and where I live, it's super late for you. And I'm like, what? So Mary earlier talked about the talent, that you were looking at recruiting in your world. I mean, do you look at people who are super resilient and can they be based anywhere really? Or what's the lifestyle that goes with a CISO?
The lifestyle with a CISO is quite a challenging lifestyle, I would say, and so forth with my people. Yeah, look, absolutely. There is no one day that is the same. I might get on a phone call in the next 5 minutes, and I might be on that phone call for 2 weeks non-stop. Like that is literally the reality of a CISO. And a lot of CISO that I speak to, it's exactly the same thing. You have to be really, really resilient. You have to not be too serious. I think a lot of people are quite serious, and it doesn't really help because if you're too serious and you're stressed, it's not really a good recipe to actually, live a...
You destroy your health, right?
You destroy your health, right? And actually burnout in cybersecurity is actually a really, really big problem. There are actually now specialist businesses who have actually made a business out of actually doing self, reflection and stress management through cybersecurity, especially. Look, my life is quite dynamic to say, and so is my team. The skills that I look in my team are depending on where they're working in terms of what discipline within cybersecurity. It might be analytical skills, it might be technical skills, it might be programming skills. We also have what's called a red team. So red teams are effectively people who in my team actually trying to attack Downer from the outside. And the whole intent is they do it in a safe, coordinated manner. So rather than the attackers getting in, we actually get in ourselves and find the issues in our environment.
I've got an idea, Mary.
What's that?
Like when we do safety tours, and we go on site with our teams, we should do cybersecurity tours with Deniz,
Oh, yeah.
That would be incredible, right? So every month we get exposed to something different.
Yeah, I think we could. But before Deniz moves on, you didn't tell us who's allowed to challenge your blind spot.
Who's allowed to challenge my blind spot?
Do you need to pick someone?
No. I'm going to go a bit broader than that. So the heads of IT. So we've got a head of IT in every business. They can challenge my blind spot anytime because I'm here to be challenged. That's a way that you grow, but that's also a way that we can actually partner together and actually, work together in terms of where those blind spots are and how we are actually going to work with our business to actually, minimise the amount of blind spots. So look, I welcome that, and we work really, really collaboratively with each other. Sometimes, we come to, a discussion point where, we don't really necessarily agree, and there's a bit of a fork in the road. But I guess with that challenge, and it's a two-way conversation, right? It's a pull and a push conversation. So look, I welcome that, and we have those discussions, and they happen quite frequently. Sometimes I've been told that, you're being a bit too difficult, you don't want to let us do something. Why are you being, did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed today? No, I didn't, because I didn't sleep last night because I was working on an incident. But yeah, look, they can challenge me. And likewise the other way around. I challenge them to say, why are your business doing this? Like, it doesn't actually make any common sense. So it's a bit of a two-way conversation.
Deniz? What is the most digitally reckless thing you have ever done?
The most digitally reckless thing I've ever done. Probably a very long time ago, I would have had the same password for several different accounts.
Right.
Now, why is that digitally reckless? Because if someone actually compromises an account of mine, and it's using the same password across my banking, my travel accounts, my insurances and so forth, they've got access to everything. Even if you've got multi-factor authentication, there's methods of getting around that. So now what I've actually done, and actually something that I talked about on the Down to Lunch and Learn, was I've actually got a password manager. So now every single one of my, 300-400 passwords are actually uniquely different, rather.
Sorry, how many passwords do you have?
Probably 400 or 500, I'd say.
Oh, gosh.
And they're all different now. Because remember, the thing is, being reckless like that and just having the same password and taking it for granted, if someone gets access to that one password...
I can see the fear in Elaine's eyes.
Maybe the question is, how many passwords do you have that are the same?
Don't answer that question. Don't answer the question.
No, I won't answer the question. Yeah, but I'm going to change all my passwords now.
Definitely change your passwords.
Elaine, what is the most digitally reckless thing you've ever done?
Most probably having...
No, you can't say that actually.
Beep.
Oh, you're not going to answer?
No, I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to ask another question to Deniz,
right,
actually. So we're here because this podcast talked about how we are owning the outcome, doing it for our customer and selling for each other. So, and that's all centered around the Downer culture, the Downer difference. So if you would have a mantra, or a sentence or a keyword or something that would connect with that, what would that be?
Keyword and with the Downer difference. Wow. Okay.
Or a mantra, or a mindset, something.
A mindset. So we're really here to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of Downer systems. And what that effectively means is, from a confidentiality perspective, we're actually here to ensure that our information is safe and that only people who are authorised to have access to it have that access. From an integrity perspective, what that effectively means in my mind is that the data that we have, it actually can't be altered or modified unless it needs to be. So we can trust the integrity of that information. And that could be things like financial results even.
So integrity, right?
Integrity.
I'm going to take that keyword.
That's the keyword.
Awesome.
And then the availability, systems are available. So people can consume them and use them.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Deniz.
No worries. Thank you.
Why is AI growing faster than the internet did in the 90s?
Well, I think technology's come a long way and computing power's come a long way. And you can do things a lot more scalable with a lot more speed, because the devices that we use today have a lot more capability in them as opposed to, the 90s.
Everyone on the Down to Difference podcast has to come prepared with a book to recommend to our listeners and a song.
Right.
I know you're a very busy man.
I'm very busy.
If you don't have a book to recommend, is there a podcast maybe?
There's a podcast that I listen to. It's a cybersecurity podcast, rather. It's called The Darknet Diaries. So I'd recommend that for anyone who really wants to understand the dark side of the internet. That's their tagline. It's actually really insightful. So I'd recommend that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to The Down to Difference on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and be sure to share it with your colleagues.